Hello, my friends. Let's just have fun today. This is a play, absolute playful, transformational contemplation a la video games. So let's just have some fun. So, I am in the Sage's Golden Path journey, and I've just we as a group are just completing this month our activation sequence, which is the first sequence in the Golden Path. This brings together our life's work, our evolution, our radiance, and our purpose with those pathways of challenge and breakthrough and core stability. I have noticed since moving into the purpose key, which is the last key in this sequence, that a lot of things have been showing me that actual gene key. I have 37.2 here in my purpose sphere, and I have been watching all of these shows that I see 37 as a starring role in the archetypes of the storyline, right? And I am reading books that have 37 and that idea of equality, whether it's being respected or disrespected equality in these books. So on your television, you know how movies are recommended for you based on your watching experience, etc. And so Jumanji, the Next Level, and Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle popped up. Those are not the Jumanji, the original board game Jumanji. These are the ones that have to do with video games. Jumanji transforms itself, the board game transforms itself into a video game. Kids are, basically sucked into this video game and popped into the avatars within the video game, which for the most part are not related to the kids themselves. So it's, in a sense, they are growing into their gifts, these gifts of these avatars that they are in, and having also to deal with a strangeness. For instance, a young woman lands in a middle-aged, pudgy body, and she has to get used to being a man in a middle-aged body who doesn't have a phone, because of course she lives on her phone and is always Instagramming her life. So it's great fun. It's great. It's very humorous and adventuresome. And I thought about, because in the very first one, which is the Welcome to the Jungle, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, there are only four. Well, there are actually 5 players, but for a lot of the movie, there's only 4 players, which fits perfectly with our activation sequence, right? So, of course, my creative mind went into thinking, what if my 4 spheres, my 4 gene keys, were video game avatar characters? What would they be like? What? So I, of course, had to design them, and I had to, because one of the great fun things about Jumanji is the video game strengths and weaknesses. The video game characters figure out that they slap their chest and they can find out what their characters do, what their avatars are good at. Smolder Bravestone is fearless. He has strength, speed, climbing, the boomerang, smoldering intensity. He has this look, this smoldering intensity. I mean, it's ridiculously fun. And but then a lot of the characters, most of them, he's the only one who doesn't, most of them have weaknesses. Like one of the characters has the weakness of venom. So if she's bitten by a snake, she loses one of her lives, right? A venomous snake. So we also have lives. They're on their wrists. They have 3 lives. And if they lose a life, they come back to life, but they've lost it. So they pretty much figure they're going to probably lose their actual lives if they lose that last bar. So, anyway. And of course, strengths and weaknesses fit so perfectly with our shadows and our gifts and our cities that I went, okay, how could I design characters that would, we would inhabit if we got sucked into this adventure game, right? Because it's a fantasy adventure game where they're dressed in these adventure clothes and have to do a quest. They have to solve this horrible thing that's happened to this land in order for them to get out of the game. So I thought, okay, how do I design my life's work, my evolution, my radiance, and my purpose? Who would they be in this video game? Now, I didn't do it logically. I didn't do it by gathering facts. I didn't do it by looking and reading my whole chart and finding out the perfect words and all of that kind of stuff. No, I did it much more intuitively. I did it much more by feel and by fun and by play, bringing in some of the things that were part of Jumanji, like nicknames. And I realized I didn't want to have just a team of women. So I turned one of my avatars into a man. I thought that was only fair. In Jumanji, there were 3 guys and one female body, right? Even though 2 of the people inhabiting the bodies were women. So I brought in some of the play from the game and some of the ridiculousness and some of the silliness. And I also, though, because I know my chart pretty well by now, what is this? 4th or 5th time I've done my activation sequence, maybe even 6th, 7th. I don't even know. I've done the activation sequence a lot, so I know it well. And so I did bring in dreamark animal aspects. I brought in some clues from the book, some clues from the audios to create these characters that would be my video game characters playing an adventure, right? Playing on an adventure, on a quest. All right, so I'm just going to tell you about these people. So I have Gene Key 34.6. Now I do realize as I was doing these, I really didn't rely much on the line itself, although I did bring in the my own personal sage lines as a little bit of the situation, but not a lot. It was mostly the archetype of the Gene Key itself and some dreamark stuff. So here is the Dr. Smolder Bravestone character, the life's work, the one who's at the tip of the iceberg, kind of the leader of the pack, the leader of the group, and her name is Barrett Steele. Okay, naming the image came first. I created these on AI. The image came first. I knew she had to be an archer because in my line for 34.6, it actually talks about archery in the sutra. So, and it's a Sagittarian sign. So archery has got to be my strength, one of my strengths, right? So here's Barrett Steele. Now, Steele, obviously, okay. 34, for those of you who don't know 34 goes from force to strength to majesty. Okay, it's got the lizard, the bear, and the emu as the dreamark animals. So as I decided to name these avatars, because the names were so funny in Jumanji, I had to do the same kind of thing. So I looked up strength and found alternatives to strength, and steel, of course, is one of them. Steel is strong, right? But Barrett is strong like a bear, so it's like, so I've got Barrett, steel. She looks like a Barrett. Now, for some reason, this is one of those intuitive hits. I made her as a shape changer. However, she has no control over which shape she transforms into, and she only has three shapes. She's either a lizard, a bear, or an emu. Okay, she has no, she can't control it, at least at the beginning of this game. It just happens when, I don't even know what makes it happen, but she transforms into these. So she's a shapeshifter of some kind. And then the archery. And then, because 34 itself is a very physical gene key and very body centric, strength, speed, there would be natural abilities that this character would have. Now, I chose, even though Smolder Bravestone has no weakness until the second movie, and then he has a person ends up being his weakness, a person named Switchblade. I decided mine did need a weakness, and so I actually used the reactive state of Gene Key 34 as the weakness. So my avatar's weakness is bullies. Now, here we have a hero, and I mean, I even call her the Guardian because an emu is in the Guardian section, is in the Guardian category in the Dream Arc. So she's a Guardian, but she has a weakness for bullies. How does that translate? How does that translate into my life? How would that translate into a video game? That's the contemplation. I'm not going to tell you how it translates because I don't even know. But that's the the whole fun contemplation that is attached to this game that I'm imagining in my mind. So does that mean that it's only the main bad guy that she has a weakness with, and then it's really good that the rest of her team knows that she has this problem, right? So yeah, this could take you into lots of different little contemplations about I honestly am thinking, how did that, it came to me that was the weakness, but how is it that came up, that's the weakness for me? And now I'm sitting here going, how many times have I been kowtowed by bullies in my life? So that's a contemplation to take away from this, okay? So now we go to the evolution, and here's where I chose to have a man, and that in itself has been a challenge. Imagining myself in the body of a man was really difficult at first, and even creating the avatar was really hard. I had created female avatars for this one, and they just weren't quite right for a number of reasons. And then I thought, okay, gotta add a man. Let's do it here. And that is a challenge. And this is actually a 37 challenge for me, because 37 is all about equality. So equality. Why wouldn't I feel comfortable in a man's body if I am truly living that sense of balanced masculine, feminine, yin, yang, even with the yin coming a little bit before the yang and the yang holding the woman? What does it feel like to be that yang holding the feminine qualities? What does that even feel like? And I noticed I had a lot of prejudice against men, which came a lot from my upbringing. So this by itself was an interesting thing to make this character a man. Then the evolution. What are the gifts of the evolution? You've noticed I call him the warrior because the skunk is the dream arc animal here, and the skunk is a warrior. But how is this man who has these strengths, which are light, laughter, and breath, how is that a warrior? So there, right now, there's a conundrum. There's a sense of this one of these paradoxes. Weaknesses was easy for this one. Bugs, the shadow of Gene Key 20. This is Gene Key 20, by the way. I apologize for not saying that. 34's programming partner is Gene Key 20, which goes from superficiality to self-assurance to presence. So bugs are actually where the shadow of superficiality's ancestry is from. The bug nation. We have a lot of DNA from the bug realm that comes out in the shadow of this particular gene key. Excessive busyness, always moving, always not thinking, not being aware, just doing your little job, right? Bugs, bugs, bugs. So it has to be bugs. What a great thing to have as a weakness in a video game, bugs. And then shiny things, because superficiality is, gets distracted. It's the fear of missing out, FOMO. So, you can just see him being distracted in a bazaar and going after the shiny, tea caddy over there, and totally forgetting that he's on this journey. And though that weakness of FOMO, shiny things, I know that one well. Even though I've come to love bugs, I know FOMO well. So what are these strengths of light? And I took this directly from this city of presence. What is that gift of light? Now you notice I have him with a flashlight. Laughter's easy. There is a laugher as one of the dream arc animals here. And how do you use laughter as a strength? And oh yeah, you do. I do. And just think about that yourself. How can we use laughter as a strength? And how would a video game character who is in the middle of fighting bad guys use laughter or light as a strength? Those are, or breath for that matter. That's another one that was directly from the text. How? I don't know. I don't have I have some answers with the light. You can turn on lights, you can turn off lights. That could be a real boon in a certain situation. You can blind people with light, right? But I don't know. What else can he do? Can he light himself up? I don't know. Can he? That would be awesome. Can he laugh and it turns the light on? That's pretty cool. I like that idea. And of course, breath. Yeah, that's a pretty awesome strength. I'm not sure how to use it, but it's an awesome strength. Okay, so now we're over to the radiance. And this one's the one that I just feel like fits me now. This Professor Cat Rhodes. And so Rhodes is one of the words that came up when I was doing a word search with the word resolve, because this is my gene key 40 that goes from exhaustion to resolve to divine will. Okay. And so I was looking for last names that have to do with resolve, and Rhodes came up. And I thought Rhodes was a great one because it also seems like cartography, right? Rhodes. So, and she's the hunter. Okay. So the hunter, the cat is the dream arc animal for this. And the cat is in the hunter category, just like the skunk was in the warrior category. So, and you notice some of her strengths have to do with cats. Soundless movement, lands on feet. Can you just see how that happens? Lands on feet. What just happened? She got knocked over and she lands on her feet. I don't know. Resolve, endurance, both of those have to do with that resolve, basically. And that resolve, to me, she's like the even though the other one, Barrett, is the quote kind of leader, strongest, blah blah blah. This Cat Rhodes, especially since she's a professor, of course, she's a professor, she knows all. I wonder what she is a professor of, come to think of it. That's a good question. She is probably the one who figures out what to do next because she has the resolve and the hunting instinct to keep in mind the ultimate goal and to keep them on track. Okay, that's very much a quality I have. So, but the weakness is, this is where I put in my eating disorder, and I am actually stealing this directly from the Jumanji movie, because one of the characters' weaknesses is cake. So when he eats cake, he explodes, right? And I have an eating disorder, and I have a thing for sugar. And so, what could I say? I put that in here as my weakness. And if you notice her, she's a little bit plump. So cake is clearly her weakness. And then heat exhaustion. Go figure. I just was thinking that just came out for me. I personally have a problem with summer. I don't love summer. I'm so much better in any of the other seasons. So heat is a weakness for me. All right, so down the bottom. And I'm saying the bottom because it's the bottom of our chart. It's the roots of our chart. It's the tap root. It's the purpose. This is my purpose. There's 37. I have 37.2 here. And 37 goes from weakness, actual weakness, to equality, to tenderness. So here we have Dr. Gentle Haven. Now my word for this, the sage line here, is mildness. So, of course, gentle is a great name for her. Gentle Haven. Okay. She is the healer, and that the dog is the healer in the dream arc. So, and the dog is, I have a cat and a dog, right? However, I have her holding a lamb because in 37 in the text, Richard talks about Jesus and about the lamb, and that 37 is holding us all as gently as a lamb in her deep love for us. Okay, so that's why the lamb showed up there. So I don't know why the mind meld came in as a power, but mind meld came in intuitively. Although that may be up for translation, because the mind meld for me means a whole soul meld, where you're also feeling feelings and you're also helping people to disentangle from their feelings and to really figure out what's truly going on with them in their sense of self, because this, it's all about equality. So absolutely respecting another person for their gifts, and this mind meld somehow is able to transform someone into their own strengths. That's what I'm getting from what the mind meld popped into my head about. Friendship is another one. The true weakness of weakness is not asking for help. So it's the fear of asking for support. So and you notice in there I have withdrawal. That's withdrawing from the group because you're afraid of asking for support. So her strength would be her friendship and her sense of unity within the group. And then strengths, why I put baby animals, probably because she's holding this lamb. I just thought but this is another weird contemplation. It's like, if I was in a video game and my strength, and it said up there, my strength was baby animals, what would I even do with that? What would I do with that? I don't know. I don't know what I would do that, but I think it's a great fun invitation to play with. So, and weaknesses, I took this directly, the over sentimental, I took that directly from the repressive side of Gene Key 37. It's the people who are so overly emotional and overly sentimental that they can't separate themselves from their emotions. They can't just feel their emotions, move through them, and get to a sense of strength. They are bushwhacked by overly emoting and being overly sentimental. This is just a really fun way to figure out more about your activation sequence, because I had to video gameize them. I had to give them qualities that you could see working in a video game. You can see her using her gift of friendship to bring the team together and have them all work as a team, okay, which they might probably have to do in order to get the end quest to the next level, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see her using that gift. You can see, obviously, you can see the archery, and you can maybe see the light. So I had to think of things that somebody would actually be able to do to win a video game, along with things that would thwart them, because everyone has a frickin' weakness. But if we work as a group like that friendship, we can be strong where another is weak, and we can help the others within the team, within the group, in order to make the group stronger, in order to get to the next level, in order to win the quest, right? Which is really just a metaphor for life. Hello, yes. I mean, I am watching my husband go through this in his political group, how no one is supporting each other. Even if they have different viewpoints, one needs to respect the different viewpoints, because they are a group that has come together with similar belief systems. And all that is happening is they are in the middle of divisiveness, because they're backbiting each other, and it's as if they have forgotten there's a quest that they're on. They all need to pull together as a team, right? Anyway, so I just thought you'd like to see what I'm playing with right now with my little Jumanji activation sequence characters, and I'm just loving the funny names, and I may be adding to the strengths and weaknesses, or I might be shifting them, or I certainly will be asking questions about how would you use light as a warrior? How would you use laughter as a warrior? What other skills does he have as a warrior? All those things. And cake. Like, are you going to allow cake to destroy you? Or are you going to get some of your resolve, which is the strength there, and maybe remember that there is a larger quest that we're on, and to get to the next level, maybe I need to leave that piece of cake. Maybe I need to leave it so I don't lose one of my precious lives. So anyway, I hope you had fun just listening to me talk about my video game adventures in the activation sequence. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.